The chair will refrain from voting unless the vote will affect the outcome. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the request from the agenda. The planning staff will give a presentation and report their recommendations. If the applicant would like to add to the staff's presentation, or if someone from the audience has comments, they will need to fill out a blue request to appear form located on the round table in the lobby. The form must be given to a staff member prior to the reading of the agenda item. When it is your turn to speak, you will be asked to proceed to the second floor meeting room. Please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and the nature of your request. As required by this board's bylaws, in all cases, the proponents will be limited to 10 minutes. Opponents will be granted 10 minutes as well, with each speaker allowed no more than 3 minutes. I recommend that a spokesperson be selected if there's a large group wanting to speak on the same agenda item. If 4 or more speaker request forms are submitted, the time allowed for the individual speakers will be limited based upon the number of forms submitted. The chair has the right to limit speakers who present redundant information or personal attacks. In unique situations, the chair may extend, or the board may vote to extend, the time allotted for speakers. After discussion, the board will vote on each request. I will announce the decision of the board after the vote. The exceptions and variances and preliminary subdivision approval are final tonight. The rezoning cases will go before the police jury for final action on July 23rd, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is being filmed by the Calcasieu Parish Government Channel and can be viewed on Wednesday and Thursday following the meeting. For additional run dates, check the website at www.cppj@calcasieuParish.gov. Channel 5 in Lake Charles, Sulphur, Moss Bluff, Westlake, Vinton, DeQuincy, and Gillis. Channel 99 in Carlos and Grand Lake. Please either turn off or silence all electronic devices. Take action to approve the minutes from June 16th, 2020 Planning and Zoning meeting. I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
A second motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Take appropriate action on SUB-0620-0138, a request by Holbrook Acres LLC for preliminary subdivision approval to allow a residential subdivision, 31 lots in Holbrook Acres, Part 2 subdivision at 1167 Dunferry Road in Ward 6. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Hyatt.
I second.
Second. Ms. Dunn.
This property is located in the Holbrook Park area and encompasses approximately 35 acres of agricultural zone land. On October 19, 2004, the preliminary plat for Holbrook Acres Part 1 and 2 was approved to develop a 62-lot subdivision with half-acre lots. Phase 1 has been developed, and the proposed Phase 2 will tie into the existing streets of Phase 1. Due to new regulations that were adopted in 2008, the project lost its grandfathering for phase development. At this time, the applicant is requesting preliminary plat approval to move forward with Phase 2, which will consist of 31 lots. Because the proposed density is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development is subject to application and/or compliance with an LPDES stormwater discharge permit, which may be required through the Department of Environmental Quality and the Calcasieu Parish Division of Planning and Development, and that the preliminary plat and runoff management plan must be approved by the Division of Engineering prior to submittal of final plans.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. We don't have a blue card for this item, but I know the owner was going to be here today. So there's no opposition to this
No
one?
opposition to the subdivision.
Any questions or concerns by the board? There being none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion passes. Take appropriate action on VAR-06 20-0135, a request by Holbrook Acres LLC for a variance to reduce the lot size requirements for Holbrook Acres Part 2, required 43,560 square feet per lot, requesting the smallest lot, 22,651 square feet, at 1167 Dunn Ferry Road in Ward 6. I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn?
This case goes along with the previous agenda item. Again, Holbrook Acres Phase 1 and 2 were approved in 2004 with half-acre lots. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the lot size requirements for Holbrook Acres Part 2, which is a mirror image of Phase 1 with the same lot sizes. Because the proposed density is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted. In front of you, the applicant has submitted a list of lot sizes from Holbrook Acres Phase 1, and it should, like a little
Legal
sheet. And then we also have received a letter of opposition that is also in your packet, so you should have both of those items.
Okay. 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 I'm going to give an opportunity to look through that opposition letter before we bring in the applicant. Okay. I guess we can bring him in.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
State your name and address for the record.
Kenny Nichols, 2026 Coffee Road.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
I lost our TV out there, so I don't know where y'all were at.
Oh,
If you can explain your project.
Oh, okay. Well, as you were saying, this is part 2 of Holbrook Acres, and it was approved, years ago. And the variance is, the lot sizes for today's standards is why I'm asking to go to the 20, I think the minimum is 22,000. We've got half a dozen of them that are that. The rest of them go up to 0.6, 0.7. Oh, well, I could have used my outside voice. It's a mirror image of Part 1. If you look at the plat, I compared it today, every lot is mirrored over, so it's exactly the same as what we had in Part 1. So,
okay.
any questions or?
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Nichols? Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you.
Any questions by the board for the staff on this issue? I guess due to the fact we did have opposition, roll call vote.
Okay. Mr. DeBrock, Ms. Cobb,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yeah.
Mr. Little,
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson,
Yes.
Ms. Hyatt,
Yes.
Ms. Galicia,
Yes.
Ms. Winey,
Yes.
8 for.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Take appropriate action on VAR-0620-0133, a request by Stephen Hatton for a variance to allow a second dwelling with less than required public road frontage, required 200 feet, requesting 130.6 feet, and to decrease the side yard setback requirement of an accessory building required 10 feet, requesting 1 foot at 3601 Wright Road in Ward 4. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Dickerson, second by Ms. Cobb. Ms. Tunn?
This property is in the Sulphur area and encompasses 2 acres of agricultural zone land. The applicant has 2 requests. The first request is to allow a second dwelling, a manufactured home, to be placed on the property for his mother-in-law. The second request is to decrease the side yard setback for an accessory building, the required 10 feet, requesting 1 foot. Because the proposed development is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that the development adhere to stormwater best management practices, and that the manufactured home be skirted prior to utilities being connected.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. There are no blue cards on this, and I don't think the applicant is here to speak unless they want to. All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Take appropriate action on EX-0520-0080, a request by Jeffrey East for an exception to allow a borrow pit, 15.68 acres, in the 2100 block of Highway 109 South in Ward 7. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Mr. Little.
Was Little.
Mr. Little.
And then Hyatt.
Okay. And that's my good side. So. Motion by Mr. Little, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn?
This property is located in the Vinton area, and the applicant would like to excavate a 15-acre borrow pit. Upon completion of the pit, the pond will be for personal use. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-122-1H4 of the Parish Code of Ordinances, that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering, and that permitting is subject to approval from the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no opposition for this one. Does the board have any questions on this matter for the staff? There being none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay. Take appropriate action on EX-0620-0083, a request by English Bayou Amusement LLC for an exception to allow a communication tower 205 feet at 2690 Highway 3059 in Ward 3. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn?
Can we pause for just a second? I just got a text message that the video feed on in the lobby has gone out. So I don't know if, and I know there is opposition
Right.
to this case, so if we want to allow that person to come up.
That's totally acceptable.
We'll be in recess first.
Yeah. He said it's okay to be in recess.
Okay.
Oh, she said they're back on now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's usually the way it goes.
Okay. Do we know if the applicant would be here by chance? I mean, we're going to hear from the opposition. Okay.
She said it's spotty, it keeps going in and out.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
English Bayou
We
Amusement.
seem to have a pretty good time. All that bunch we run with.
Ma'am?
Mr. Chair, would you like me to read the request? Or would,
Yes, please.
okay. We're back on? Okay.
Ms. Tunn?
This property is in the Old Town Road area and encompasses approximately a half acre of land, of mixed residential zone land. New Singular Wireless will release a 75 by 75 foot piece of land to construct a 205 foot communication tower Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the condition that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have one blue card in opposition. Are you Marvin Johnson?
I'm here, I'm the
You're the
applicant.
applicant? Okay.
Yes. So-
State your name and address for the record.
Sure. Chip Lyons, 201 St. Charles Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana. Here on behalf of AT&T Wireless. I can provide info on why we're requesting this or answer any questions you guys have. I'm not quite sure what the nature of the opposition is, but I'm certainly willing to answer any questions you have on this proposed site.
Okay.
The need for the site is to address cellular data and coverage capacity needs in the area. So this map may be a little bit hard to see. This is the before coverage, and this is the after. So red is actually the best coverage. That's in-building coverage. Green, yellow to green generally means in-car. Yellow means in-car, green means outdoor, and blue means zero coverage. So this is a proposed location. These are other AT&T existing sites. Currently, little or, some outdoor coverage and coverage gaps. If the tower is constructed here, then it significantly increases both in-building, in-car, and outdoor coverage in the area. So AT&T and all the carriers are really doing everything they can to try and increase coverage and capacity in this area and throughout their networks. People, as you know, phone used to just be a phone, then it was used for text. Now, with people working from home, studying from home, there's I guess more than ever, people need more data and coverage in their houses. Over half of the houses in the country are wireless only, so cell phones are both sort of a work necessity and also a public safety necessity. There are more than 500,000 calls a day made to 911 from cell phones. So this proposed tower will address those issues. It'll also have capacity for FirstNet, which is a standalone network for first responders, sort of a separate network for first responders designed to work in event of disaster or other emergency, and this tower will have capacity for that. The carriers, when they try and find a location, first thing they try and do is go on an existing tower if there's one that works for this specific area. Unfortunately, there are no towers in the area that would provide the coverage and the data needs for this particular location. So that's the reason for the request at this particular spot. It's zoned R2, I believe, which requires special exception approval from the board.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lyons.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, what is the radius of that map?
So there is, so the scale down here, that's a mile. So
Okay.
If you look at, a typical, a typical antenna is going to provide 1 to 2 mile radius of
Okay.
coverage. When they look to locate them, it's a pretty small area because I guess it's kind of like Goldilocks. It can't be too close to other antennas or else there's interference, can't be too far away or else calls get dropped. So in this particular location, they try to put something essentially right in the middle to work with the other antennas that they already have in the area.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
just want to remind you that after the opposition speaks,
He'll come back.
yeah, he has rebuttal time, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there currently nothing on this lot? There's a home? Okay.
That's the yellow square, there's the house
Right.
here.
Mhm. Well, I don't know. To me, it looks like a storage building.
On their site plan, they show an existing building. And a
See,
shed.
Or is this
if
the house
anything,
right
that's what I'm thinking the home would be, and those two on the left side of the gold
Building.
box would be
Like the home is right
some
in front of the-
outbuildings. I passed there, I just don't recall there being a home there.
They didn't do it here.
And who knows?
Did you say the existing building was a home? I'm not sure.
That's what Ms. Tunn
Yes,
said.
we think it is a house.
Is it currently occupied?
I don't know that.
It looks like a house and two buildings.
Right.
Right.
This
So
says
is that, is the
existing
person
home.
opposing that, in that house?
We're not sure what the
Okay.
opposition is.
Okay.
Just to give you a point of reference, to the left, that's been a number of things, but it's changing names again. That used to be Granger's. That kind of open lot on
What
the
is that?
very left. Yeah,
What is, right here?
right.
And what is Granger's?
It was a restaurant bar type thing. I see the name changed.
Okay.
You can ask for the opposition.
What's that?
You can ask for the opposition.
Oh, they're right here. Oh, I thought they were coming.
Yes, I did. That's what,
They were waiting for y'all.
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we thought they were coming.
Opposition.
I'm sorry.
Their TVs are down everywhere.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Sorry.
Wow. State your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Walter Johnson. My resident is 2699 Rushmore Drive, Lake Charles, Moss Bluff area.
Okay. And you're opposed to this, Mr. Johnson?
Excuse me?
You're opposed to this? Your reason for being here today?
But really I want to find out more about it. I read some of that, what was on the signs, and also I looked it up online. Some good options and some bad options. And the bad option that I found out that anybody that have soft tissue within their body, it will deteriorate it, such as kneecap, knee replacements, or plastic things in your back or in your heart. And that's what I was told, that it will make it not function like it's supposed to because of the radiation that it will put out. And also I was wondering, across the street from where they want to put it, why couldn't they put it there away from the residential area? If they have more space over there than they have right at my back door. And that's what I am concerned about, because you do have children that are small and being raised back there. And a couple houses down is right at their back door. So what benefit would that do to the resident that is staying there? But that would be the first 5G tower that we have here in Lake Charles.
Staff? First 5G tower is what he's asking. I don't think this is a 5G tower. Right.
I don't think this
Well,
is
that's what I was told, 5G.
I mean, we can,
Yeah, we're
we can
gonna-
a- we can ask the applicant
Correct.
exactly what it is, but this doesn't appear to be a 5G tower.
Right.
But what is it?
Well, we're going to find out because the applicant's going to come speak after you.
Okay. All right. But that is my concern about, not only for myself, but for the community there where I stand at, and also the children that are being raised there. Because it is a quiet neighborhood, and we all take care of our own selves and help out one another. And it is a trailer park back there also. And as far as I know of, don't have too much trouble back there. So I just wonder why can't they put it across the street? Because there is no houses, plenty of land over there. You know, like.
Well, ours is to address what he's requesting, so when he
Okay.
comes back up, we're going to ask him the questions you brought up.
Okay.
And we'll move forward.
All right. That's it?
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
All right, thank you all too. Y'all have
Thank
a
you very
blessed
much.
day.
Okay.
Excuse me?
I said, thank you very much for coming.
Okay, all right.
The next day comes back, we might have more questions for him.
Bring back in our applicant. That's the first thing you asked me.
Because it means just looking at it, it's like this is a picture of one eye. But, you know, okay.
Makes sense. Across the road. That's not what he's asking.
Mr. Chairman,
Excuse me. Yes?
I do want to point out, before you get the applicant back here, is that the properties to the east and to the west of these, the request, they are zoned commercial. So, I mean,
Okay. Okay, that's
and across the street too.
Right.
But on this side of the street, on the north side,
both sides.
both sides of the street are zoned commercial.
Okay. Okay.
Why did they not own the land across the street?
I don't think so.
It's an environmental issue.
So does my microwave oven.
And then for the other times, I guess it's lesser of. I go with Janelle. I voted Janelle. You go Janelle. Too bad you're not going to let it go.
Well, we can, I mean,
Is your hair curly?
yes.
This girl, she walked she washes, she wears
They can just stand right there. They don't have to. Yeah, I mean, they would be distant, they'd be distant.
Technical difficulties.
They can summarize what he said. So, one in here. The applicant, the opposition went back downstairs.
Well, does he want to come up?
What's that?
We just need you.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Ms. Lyons, some of the questions that were brought up in this process were about the radiation possibly impacting neighbors in that area. And the other issue, one of them off the top of my head, he brought up a 5G tower. Is
Yes, I'd be happy to. So on radiation and health effects, the signals and the equipment that's put on by any carrier is all heavily regulated by the FCC, FAA, and other federal agencies. And they've all studied both kind of traditional cell towers as well as newer 5G technology. There's been no demonstrated link between the radio signal that gets emitted from that and any known health effect. And again, your phone is this sort of incredible mini computer, but the signal that goes back and forth, it's a radio signal. And that's why the carriers have to have as many antennas as they do. Radio signals get blocked by buildings, by wooded areas, by topography. So again, it's just a radio signal coming from that tower. It's a different frequency from FM or AM, but it's a radio signal. So there are no known or demonstrated health effects. I think in terms of the area, this tower would provide benefits to residents in the area because of increased coverage in their homes. It's also got room for 2 other carriers to go on there. As far as 5G, I think this tower would have capacity for 5G installations. Honestly don't know if it's going to be 4G now and 5G later. I did hear, we could hear a little bit outside on the video. I think the gentleman referenced there is another tower maybe a half mile away, I think at an auto salvage yard. That tower The maximum height that AT&T could go on that tower is 135 feet. This one is 205 feet. For network purposes, it's not going to carry as far at 135 feet and just wouldn't solve the coverage and capacity issues in the area.
One of the other questions and/or concerns was why this location and not on the south side of the road?
I think so I guess it's a couple of things. When the carriers go and look at a location, it's not like a public like CLECO or Entergy. They can't just go sort of take someone's property. They have to find a willing landowner first. Once they find a willing landowner, they look at zoning. And on this particular lot, we thought the location worked because we meet setbacks, and there are a few zoning designations where it's a permitted use. It's a special exception everywhere else, so we didn't think that made this property really any different from others that we could have looked at. So usually it's a question of finding a willing landowner and a lot size with dimensions that work for location of a tower.
Okay.
But how near are you to the
Yes, ma'am.
residential? How near are you to the residential?
Yeah. So both properties on either side are zoned commercially. This is mixed, I think is a mixed-use residential, and I guess it's to the north is residentially zoned, and we meet the setback requirement from that area. I believe the setback is half of the tower height, and we exceed that setback. And the tower is also designed, even though it's a 200-foot tower, the towers are designed, and the code kind of acknowledges this, towers are designed to, if there's a structural issue, to kind of bend and not bounce back, as opposed, towers aren't designed to come down like a tree. So if there's any kind of structural issue, what happens is the tower, it's a metal tower, it's going to move. If the load exceeds what it's designed for, essentially it just moves and doesn't come back. So it doesn't come down like a tree. So we meet the setback. So I think that was and one more comment on that. The reason towers go sometimes near residential areas is that's where the demand is. That's where the towers is trying to meet the demands of people in the area for data coverage and capacity and data speed. And so that's why it's an issue that we come up with, that we have to address a lot, because towers often are put near residential areas. This one's not residentially zoned. Well, it is residentially zoned. It's commercial on either side. But the reason they go near residential areas is because that's generally where the demand is for data coverage.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I got one question for the applicant.
Yes, Coach.
The gentleman that's opposing it mentioned the fact that the radiation from the tower, if he had some metal in his body, or knee replacement, or heart problem, that it would affect it. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't. I mean, the tower, it's a radio signal, so it's really not, I'm not sure I would call it radiation like an X-ray or something like that. It's a radio signal. It's not an X-ray. It's not nuclear. It's a radio signal. So it's really no different. It's a different frequency, but it's really no different from a FM or an AM radio. And studies, again, there are lots of studies out there, and none of them have found any connection like that between cellular signals and any kind of health issues.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Ms.
Yeah.
Lyons?
I have a question for Wes.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Do
ma'am.
they do an environmental study for towers now? Is there some type of?
Well, the parish does not, but I don't know. You can ask the applicant if they, the question was, do y'all do any environmental studies?
Yeah, so as part of regulatory, so the zoning usually is toward the end of the process, because there's a lot of regulatory stuff they have to go through before to site the tower there. I mentioned FCC, FAA approval. They do an environmental study of the property to make sure there are no environmental conditions. They also do a study under the National Environmental Policy Act to make sure that what they're putting in there doesn't disturb any archaeological sites, any existing historical factors affecting the property. So there's a series of, there are at least 2 environmental studies that they do before going in. And again, anything that goes there is going to comply with federal rules on transmission and radio frequency, et cetera.
But it doesn't go on health.
What's that?
They don't have a health environmental study. When it
Well, I mean,
affects
so
the health
on
of
a,
the
yeah,
area.
on a specific tower location, no. There are plenty of studies out there that generally have looked at the type of signal that would come from this antenna, both on the federal level. The National Cancer Institute has done one that found no connection. There are lots of studies out there that show that there's no link. On a site-by-site basis, they don't go in and redo that because the technology that they're using at this site has already been studied by these prior third-party studies.
What's the regulatory length of those studies? Do you know that? In terms of outcomes? Is it studied for 1 year, 2 years, or what is it?
I don't know the length of the studies. I know that the studies have all shown that there's no connection, and from a kind of regulatory, federal and state regulatory perspective, because it's an area that's already governed by federal law, they're essentially FCC orders stating that health effects are federal issues to be studied, and really, I'm happy to address health effects, but basically, federal law says that those are federal issues and usually aren't issues that can be addressed on the state or local level, because that's what federal law says, but I'm certainly happy to address and answer any questions on those, because again, all the studies that are out there, and I have, let me see, think. Unfortunately, I left it downstairs, but I have a list of studies downstairs and some other materials that I brought with me. I didn't bring it upstairs because I didn't bring everything I had with me. But I know that there have been FCC studies, there's been the National Cancer Institute has looked at it, and there are other studies out there that again show that it's a radio signal, and that radio signal doesn't have any adverse health effects on human beings.
My second question is, so this is, again, clarify for me about the 5G?
Okay, so 5G is really, and I'll clarify as much as I can because I'm a lawyer and not an engineer, so give it with a grain of salt. But 5G really is just sort of, the G is just the next generation of broadcast signals. So 5G, so right now most signals out there are 4G. 5G is a higher frequency signal. Because it's a higher frequency signal, you can carry more data with it, but it goes a shorter distance. So a lot of the, I don't know if you guys have heard about small cell installations. So this is what's referred to as a macro tower. It's large, it's 205 feet. That's sort of the backbone of the network. Small cells are shorter installations, 20, 30 feet, that are kind of infill. And small cell generally is 5G. It's a higher radio frequency. It goes a shorter distance. I think a tower like this probably has 5G capacity, but I really don't know what the timing would be to install 5G equipment on a tower like this. And again, there are studies out there that have been submitted in connection with small cell ordinances. Those get adopted by jurisdictions throughout the state that show there's no connection between the 5G radio signal and any adverse health effects on humans.
Mr. Crane?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to let the board know that this board did adopt, and the police jury adopted an ordinance, or we revised our cell tower communication tower ordinance to include the small cell tower 5G,
Okay,
which a lot of other communities have done.
Yeah, no, and I wasn't aware, I've worked on them in some jurisdictions, I wasn't aware that you guys had one
We have,
here.
yes.
Right, yeah, and that's, again, and that helps, again, provide additional data capacity for the residents of the area.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lyons.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions for Mr. Lyons? Thank you, Mr. Lyons.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions for the staff on this matter? Being none, Ms. Christie, roll call vote.
Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Hyatt,
Yes.
Ms. Felicia. Yes. Ms. Cobb,
No.
Mr. Dubrow,
Yes.
Ms. Whitey,
Yes.
7 for and 1 against.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, take appropriate action on EX-0620-0084, a request by Kenneth Nichols Edux for an exception to allow an expansion to an existing borrow pit, 32 acres, and to allow a borrow pit extension of 10 years at 3301 North Perkins Ferry Road in Ward 1. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Motion by Coach, second by Ms. Dickerson. Ms. Tunn?
This property is in the Moss Bluff area and encompasses approximately 40 acres of agricultural land. In 2017, the applicant received approval to excavate a 4.59-acre borrow pit for a period of 3 years. At this time, the applicant is requesting an expansion to allow a 32-acre borrow pit and a time extension for 10 years. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-122 1H4I through XII of the Parish Code of Ordinances, that a road damage bond in the amount determined by the parish engineers must be submitted to the Division of Engineering prior to issuance of a development permit, that the hauling must be completed within 10 years of zoning approval, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. There's no opposition to this request. Is there any question by the board to the staff on this matter?
Mr. Chair, are we doing a 32 additional acres, or we're just incorporating the 4 acres into that 32 acres?
We are incorporating the larger 32 acres into the 5 acre, or 4.59 acre.
Are we good with that?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Nichols, do you have something you wish to add to this?
No, sir.
Okay.
You have a question?
All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Take appropriate action on RZ-0520-0164, a request by KMP Properties LLC to rezone from manufactured home park R-MHP to recreational vehicle park R-RVP and general commercial C2 to allow a recreational vehicle park, 22 recreational vehicle spaces, 3 manufactured home spaces, and commercial development, mini warehouses at 7874 Nelson Road in Ward 3. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So move.
Motion by Ms. Dickerson, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn?
This property is in the South Lake Charles area and encompasses 4.9 acres that is zoned manufactured home park at this time. The applicant intends to expand the existing park, which will consist of 22 recreational vehicle spaces, 3 manufactured home spaces, and commercial development for mini warehouses. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to adjacent properties, that screening must be provided in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances prior to final electrical approval, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no blue cards on this item either.
Yeah. We're good. No,
Oh,
no.
okay. I thought you were saying yes, and that we had one. I didn't see it. Okay. Does the applicant have anything you wish to add to this?
As long as there's no opposition.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, state no. Motion passes. Okay. Next item, take appropriate action on RZ-062-015-0165, a request by Dwayne Chapman Edux to rezone from agricultural A1 to light commercial C1 to allow commercial development of beauty salon in the 1800 block of Claude Hebert Road in Ward 8. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Coach. Second.
Motion by Coach, second by Mr. Dubrock.
This property is in the LeBlue settlement area and encompasses .24 acres of agricultural land. At this time, the applicant is requesting to rezone the property to light commercial to allow a beauty salon. Because the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions. That the development adhere to the site plan on file, the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that screening must be provided in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances prior to final electrical approval, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We have no blue cards on this issue. And does the applicant have anything to add to this?
No, sir.
Okay. All those in favor, state aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay, item 15, take appropriate action on R, what's that?
It's item 14, sorry, not the matter. Oh, sorry.
How about we do this? Take appropriate action on RZ-0620-0170, a request by Fairfield Estates MHP LLC to rezone from single-family residential R-1 to manufactured home park R-MHP to allow business sales office for the adjacent manufactured home park at 6859 Tom Hebert Road in Ward 3. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Dunn?
This property is in the South Lake Charles area and encompasses 1.44 acres of single-family residential zone land. At this time, the applicant is requesting to rezone the property to manufactured home park to allow a business sales office for the adjacent Fairview Mobile Estates Park. Because the proposed development is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions. That the development adhere to the site plan on file, the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that screening must be provided in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances prior to final electrical approval, that the development adhere to the stormwater best management practices, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. Does the applicant have anything to add to this presentation? Okay. There are no blue cards on this matter. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is to advise that the next regularly scheduled planning and zoning meeting will be held on Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Dickerson, second by Ms. Hyatt. We are adjourned.